Have you ever feel like color grading is just this endless battle? Like you're sitting there scrolling through hundreds of lots, tweaking shadows and highlights, and at some point you're like, why am I even doing this? Nothing feels quite right. I know this feeling, guys. I've been there with you. But what if I tell you that I found a tool that makes everything way easier? Sup guys? Eugene is here, and today I want to talk about something that kind of blew my mind and made my color grading process way less of a headache. If you've ever struggled with the color grading, trust me, you will want to see this. A quick disclaimer. I respect the craft of professional colorists, but sometimes I just want to tweak my footage by myself, and I don't want to spend a couple hours on a complicated color grading workflows. That's where Dehancer comes in. Unlike LUTs, which are just pre-made color templates or lookup tables, it's designed to replicate the look of real film. And it does it so well that you can take almost any footage and make it look like it was shot on a real film. Cool, right? Let's dive into DaVinci Resolve and I will show you the key features that are usually in my workflow. Let's apply Dehancer. The first step that we have to do is to choose our input source. It can be either just Rec 709 or other gammas, or you can choose your camera. In my case, it was Sony FX3. Let's just choose FX3 here and S-Log3. So that's what you get after you apply Dehancer and choose your gamma. And here you can see a lot of different settings that you can tweak. Here we have the basics, like exposure compensation, temperature, and tint. So if you want, you can just rise or decrease your exposure and change your temperature or change your tint, obviously. In this shot, I would make it a little bit warmer chest, just a little bit. But don't forget that after that, you're gonna change your film profile if you want, and some of your films is going to be a bit cooler, some of them even black and white, so be careful with it. Usually for these shots outside, when you have this sunny weather, usually I use this AGFA color 100 or this one, Astrum color negative 125. Yeah. In this shot, I think I'm going to use this one. You can also try this slider as well, but in this shot, I am not going to use it. So here we have Film Developer, and if you enable this, usually I use only color boost here, because I'm going to change my contrast a little bit later in another section of Dehancer. So if you just slide this a little bit right, you'll see that we get a little bit more saturation. Let me just switch it off and on, and you see that we have more greens and even more skin tones. Yeah, let's keep it like this for now. Let me just switch off the nodes so you'll have bigger image. Yeah, that's great. Next one is film compression. So basically, if you need to bring back your highlights, if you see that you're just a little bit overexposed, you can just enable this and you see that you have more details in your highlights. If you just switch it off, you see that this part is a little bit brighter and this one as well. Let me just show it one more time. Here on waveform, you also see the difference. It's just bringing back your highlights. So if you have like really overexposed image, like let's say like this, and you just want to compare, if you just switch it off, you see that it's like too bright. But if you enable this, it's just bring back your highlights a little bit lower and it looks better. So let me just move back my exposure. And the next step, which I usually use, is expand. Here you can add a little bit of contrast to your image. You have control of your black point and white point. Usually I just use black point here. So if we move it a little bit right, you see that we're getting more contrast. If you switch off and on, you see the difference. And the next step is our print profile. Usually I'm just keeping this linear, but in this case we can try this codec 2383. It's up to you. Again, don't forget that color grading is very individual process, and you can choose any settings that you want because it very depends on the shot that you got and very depends on the mood that you want to get. So this is not the manual for your color grading process. I just want to show you how easy you can get the results just in 10 to 15 minutes with Dehancer. So let's just skip this codec 2383. I think we can reduce contrast. As you can see, after we applied this print profile, the image got a little bit more contrasty. So I just moved the black point back as it was before. After adding your print, you can add a film grain, obviously, and in the latest versions of Dehancer, they actually added these presets. So you can just choose a preset of grain, and if it works for you, that's great. But if you want to tweak the grain like more precisely, you can choose this custom preset, and as you can see, you have a lot of options here, like the size of grain, amount of it, film resolution, and one of my favorite, you can choose amount of grain in different parts of your image, like shadows, midtones, and highlights. So for example, if you don't want to add grain in your shadows anymore, you can just slide it down and that's it. You won't have any grain in your shadows besides the grain of your camera in the shadows, obviously. But if you want to edit, just play with it and you can see how much grain we'll get in the shadows. Let me just zoom it here, and this is obviously a shadows. So if we just move it down, you see that image here is much cleaner. But if we move it up, you see that we have much more shadows here and here. So yeah, it's up to you. As well as midtones and highlights, you can play with it or just choose any presets that you want. For example, 35mm and with 250 ISO. The next step is halation. Halation is these orange edges when you have something really bright on the background and something darker on the foreground. Let me just show you. If you just enable this, it might be not as noticeable, but if you can see here, this orange edge, let me just switch on the mask mode and let's make it even harder. For example, this one. Obviously, this is too much, but just as an example, it's much better than it was before. So you can tweak it obviously as well. You can make it less or more. But also you can choose your custom profile and then you can play around with different settings and you can achieve those results that you want. Usually I'm playing with global diffusion and amplify. Let me just reduce this and maybe with amplify. Let me switch on the mask mode so I will see better what I get. Let's just check here, for example. Yeah, I think we can keep it like this. And after you applied halations, just be careful and check out your colors because it could be shifted just a little bit to warmer side. Let me just disable and you will see. You see, it becomes kind of warmer. So if you're okay with it, just leave it like this. If not, you can obviously move here and just reduce your temperature a little bit to compensate the halation effect. After, you can add the bloom. If you ever used these Black Promised filters or maybe satin filters, you already know what is it. But if not, it's just added this nice glow around the bright areas. Let me just enable it, and if you can see here and here and here, it becomes a little bit brighter around these areas which are already bright. It makes image a little bit less digital and smoother, less contrasty and less sharpness. It's again up to you. If you want to edit, you can edit. If not, just switch it off, play with it. That's the beauty of Dehancer, that you can make everything just in one node, just in one plugin. That's very cool. So let me just edit this time and let's go to the next one. To be honest, usually I don't use this film damage, film breadth, gate weave and overscan, because for my projects usually it's too much, but you can play with it. It's very cool tools. Just try it out. The next step is vignette, which makes pretty much exactly what you expect. If you just enable it, you can play with the exposure of your edges. You can make it darker or brighter. You can tweak the size of the mask, and you can also just switch on the mask mode and play with the size of the mask and aspect ratio of your vignette. Let me just switch it off, because usually I don't use vignette, but that's how it works here. Then you can switch on also your false colors. Usually I use false colors while I'm shooting, but if you want to have control on your image also on a post-production, you can switch on this, and you can see how many highlights is blowing and how many shadows is just lost. So yeah, for me now that's fine. And also you have this clipping indication, and we don't have any clipping right now, but let me show you how it works. If you add too many contrast, it's starting to show you where you actually make it too much and where you don't have information anymore. As well with whites, if you don't see is it overexposed or not, you can switch on this clipping indication, and if you have something overexposed, it's going to be like this. Also, great tool if you want to understand how many contrasts you want to add, how many highlights you have, how many shadows. But as you can see, we made everything pretty well. So let me just switch it off. In the output, you can control your total impact of the Dehancer on your footage. It can be either 100 or 0 if you want to check before and after, or maybe you think that it's too much, you can just add for 75%. But for me, I think 100 is pretty great in this situation, so let's just keep it like this. And another cool feature of the Dehancer, you can actually export a lot from here. Obviously, you will not gonna get this all these effects like halation or film grain, but at least you will have these colors and look. And if you want to save it for the future, for example, you're gonna have this shooting outside and with the sunny weather, and you want to achieve this kind of look as it was before, you can save this slot for the future and use it in your on-camera monitor or just in your editing after. That's very cool actually, and I use it before. The next is options. So here you can choose your quality of preview. And usually I'm working in normal because it's a little bit faster, because don't forget this halation, grain and the bloom effects, they are pretty heavy for your computer. Here you can check also your profiles that you have. At this moment, Dehancer has 63 film profiles. Usually I use only a couple of them, but it's always great to have another option. And now is something cool. Dehancer is not only for your desktop editing, it has also an iOS app, and let me show you how it works. So here you can choose your image. Let me just try this one, for example. And here you have a lot of different film emulations as well. Let me actually choose those ones that I liked before on my computer. And here you can make your edits pretty much in the same way as you just made on your computer. So you can just crop your image. Let me make it 9:16. Then you can change your basics, exposure, temperature. Then you can change your contrast, gamma, color separation and color boost as well. If you want just switch off one of the settings, you can just click here or here to remove the grain or halation. And then just click export and save to gallery. By the way, if you want to try out the Dehancer, don't forget about my promo code EUGEN10 to get 10% off. Whether you're working on your professional projects or personal one, it's a great tool to level up your look without breaking the bank. So what makes Dehancer stand out personally for me? I think it's simplicity and easy to use, because after you applying this plugin, you don't have to change too much to get a great look, and then you can just copy that look to your other shots, and that's it. Very easy to use and very easy to change anything you want. If you're done with this endless tweaking and you want to get this great look without losing your mind, I think it's definitely worth a shot. Whether you're working on a high-end production studios or just for your personal YouTube video, by the way, I was color grade this video with Dehancer as well, it can save your time and give you results that just look amazing. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. See you in the next one.